from him. On to number 44, the next highest rated player in your ISD Fab 50, Ivan Taylor. We got film of him as well from his spring. And I got to tell you, Jamie, tell me this doesn't look just like Shane Walton moving around. Just like a bigger, probably more athletic Shane Walton, especially the stuff in the slot. I just think he moves just like him. And that's will take as far as prospects for Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always like when you can compare to some of these guys that that I mean, people, Notre Dame fans remember and think fondly of. He's faster than
for sure,
Walton.
But I'm just looking at the way his body moves. Like,
yeah, he's got that kind of like stockiness, almost like that hunch a little bit too. Right?
Yeah.
Where there is something about the way he just moves and even tackles. It's like reminds me of Shane Walton. I think that's a good. So in that way, that's a really, really good call. I think what you see with like all this too is exactly why he is one of the top recruits in the country, and one of the guys who I think is one of the most valuable defensive backs that in the cycle period, because he can play outside. He can man cover a receiver outside. He can play nickel. He can play deep. He can come down and play in the box. He can be single high, right? Like, he has obviously the intelligence, the instincts, the athleticism to have the range to cover a ton of ground. I think the one thing too is that, like, he's obviously not a big guy. He's like 5'11", right? He's 5'11", and he's probably for about 180 pounds right now. And he might not ever be like a guy who's huge, right? And that's probably why. Like, if he was Kyle Hamilton's height, he would, it would be like ridiculous. But even with that, he doesn't have like the ridiculous arm length and all this kind of stuff. He's still just an elite prospect and an elite athlete, right? So I think he's a guy who's going to play early, very early at Notre Dame, and like he might even be a guy who is the nickel in 2025. Like, I think that is on the table, because there's a lot of like, you can just see his intelligence and the way he diagnoses things and route recognition. And you throw that together with athleticism, that, I mean, it's very similar to like what you see with Sean Crawford, and he's like a bigger Sean Crawford.
Yeah, and bigger Sean Crawford. The versatility there. It could play any type of position, and the thing is, they have that in Dallas Golden as well, and that's what kind of makes it. That's when your defensive backfield starts to get like super elite, where you have multiple players who are like top of the line prospects. Like, the next person is Dallas Golden at 46, and we've talked about his versatility all the time. Maybe his best position is safety. Ivan Taylor's best position might be slot. You still have Ethan Long, who's like hence the name, like long athlete, right? I can really cover ground. He's a good athlete. You have Creed Thomas, who's a big guy. There's a possibility of adding Mark Zachary to the class on the 25th, which is Saturday. Like, what they have in the defensive backfield is just kind of. When has Notre Dame ever been in this position recently? Like, it just hasn't been, and it's just it's really good to see. And you can see all these guys, usually there's a kind of a tier to this sort of thing where it's like, hey, here's your headliner, and then here's your complementary pieces. Notre Dame's got could have 3 headliners in the secondary for their defense, and that's really good.